Welcome to another episode of From the Mayor's Desk, featuring Mayor Tim Woolley. Glad to see you today, Mayor.
Thanks for having me, Carl.
You're a busy bee these days.
I am. I've been running quite a bit today.
Well, we got a lot of ground to cover here. I know we went
while.
over this morning. Why don't we start with, we are recording here in early April, and it's already been a very busy year thus far. You held your second State of the City address in February to another sold-out audience at the Lakes of Taylor. What was your favorite takeaway from the event?
Just to see the amount of people that show up. It's a great opportunity to raise funds for the Rotary. You know, the Rotary do a lot of great things in the city of Taylor. They asked me to do it and speak, and to see the amount of people that come and you know, like to see what's going on in the city. And it's a great opportunity to bring people together and talk about our city. And you know, as you know, I like to bring in directors to talk about their departments. You know, they're better at it than I am. So I probably rambled a little longer this year than I should have, but it's always a good time, and I'm happy to do it for the Rotary.
I know for the second straight year we had 3-4 different people up there, department heads. It seemed to come off really well.
Yeah, like I said, you know, the department heads can speak more about their departments, or better about their departments than I can. You know, I mean, I get information here and there. I know, you know, generally what's going on and stuff, but they can really be much more detailed than I can.
You honored former council member Angela Croft that day. She passed on February the 13th. You had a special relationship with Angie, and she was a favorite to a lot of us, and will be a huge loss to the community.
I mean, that one still hurts a little bit. You know, I was honored and happy to work with Angie for 8 years on council. Just a great human being, wanted to help everybody that she possibly could. Had a great sense of humor. You know, me and her had a mutual love for rock and roll. You know, her and her husband Jim used to go to concerts all the time, and we would talk about them and stuff. But you know, Angie had a great sense of humor. And the great thing that was what I loved about Angie is you could have a total disagreement on one topic, but it was never an issue. You know, it was always, you know, okay to disagree with each other, you know, and then just move on and stuff. And you could have a good conversation and agree to disagree, but, you know, Angie was always very, you know, just one of those people that just brought a lot of joy in your life, you know, great sense of humor. From the first time I met her was in the campaign of 13, you know, when we were all running, and she came up to me and just started talking to me, and it was a great conversation of somebody that I never knew, you know, and, you know, I just, horrible situation, you know, that was a phone call that I didn't want to receive, you know. Our police chief reached out to me and said, hey, this is a call I don't like making. You know, I instantly thought something happened to one of our officers or something, and he told me that, you know, they ran on Angie and that she had passed, and
a lot of people
that definitely put me in a tough situation. And I was literally walking into a meeting. Luckily, Dan Bazura was in there with me, because he kind of had, you know, I was lost at that moment. You know, I was still kind of in shock. You know, so
a lot of people
tough situation.
A lot of people don't realize that you get those calls.
I
Okay,
do.
not just for council people, but if there's a really major police event, mayors are usually right in the first.
You know, Carl, it's, you know, not everything, but there is, you know, anything that might be, you know, like if you know, they want to keep me aware, like if the news contacts us or something, you know, hey, there's a gunman in you know, in this house, or you know, situations, and it's some pretty sad news on a regular basis. And you know, one of the things I had to tell both chiefs is, you know, hey, wait till 9 in the morning or so, you know, to, you know, because I get those texts that, hey, we ran on a baby last night and didn't make it, and you know, and stuff, and that they have a tough job. It's not just arresting bad guys and putting out fires. They see a lot of tragic stuff, and and it bothers me just from getting the texts in the morning and stuff. So it's like, let my day get going a little bit, because I don't even watch the news in the morning because it can be a little depressing,
Yeah, it takes, all that takes its toll.
Yeah, but that was the first time that it was somebody that I knew and was a friend of mine. So it really kind of knocked me off my game for a little bit there.
Well, without a doubt, I think a lot of people are going to miss
Oh
Angie.
yeah, you could tell by the amount of people that showed up at Varan across the street.
On a different topic, March is always reading month at the Taylor schools and around the area. You did your share this year of reading to young children. You visited 4 different schools. You seem to always enjoy that type of thing.
Carl, I love it. It's one of my favorite things. I used to love coaching little kids. It kind of breaks up. March is a big budget month. Me, Dan Bazura, our CFO, Jason Couture, are in a lot of meetings with discussing the budget with department heads and everything. So it's kind of nice. It kind of breaks it up a little bit for me. But usually, if a school reaches out to me, I'm there. We'll schedule it. We'll put it in my schedule. I just love being around the kids. I love the questions they ask, because you never know what you're going to get. My favorite this year, as I always introduced myself, a little bit about my background, told the kids that I was a veteran. And one little kid, I think this was, I can't remember which school it was, but a second grader, he says, Mr. Mayor, I have a question for you, and it's probably inappropriate from a kid my age to ask this question. So I immediately went, uh-oh, and he's like, did you ever use an RPG while you were in the military? And I'm like, well, you clearly play video games, to know what that is. And I told him, no, I did not, but I did confiscate one when I was in Iraq. So, it's just, you never know what kind of questions you're going to get. And I always enjoy those times. I mean, the kids are always great and a lot of fun.
Young people keep you young.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
they make you laugh, and just, the questions they ask and stuff, again, do I live in the mayor's house? And, and it's like, are you the president? No, I'm not the president. I don't want to be, so.
I hear you.
Just a lot of funny questions. It's always great to see those kids.
Republic Services, a deep injection well facility built to house hazardous waste, was in the news earlier this spring when it was found to be accepting some of the hazardous waste from the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. There was plenty of pushback from Michigan leaders against that move of accepting that. How do you view that situation? Where do we go from here? I know that well is literally right on the border between Romulus and Taylor, almost.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's that was a really crazy situation. The derailment was a huge ordeal, and then really nobody probably would have realized I think it was one of the FEMA people or the environmental people said that this stuff is going to Romulus, Michigan, and everybody went, whoa, wait, what? So it was something that it definitely opened everybody's eyes again. That injection well has been there for a while. Why they would put that in Romulus, Michigan, I cannot understand. Being so close to Metro Detroit, Detroit and the Great Lakes.
Right.
And through this process, I learned so much about the well that they use. I thought it was encapsulated.
Yeah.
Like I literally thought it was this large cylinder thing that they just put it in the ground. No, they're pumping it all the way down in between layers of bedrock.
Right.
So the only capsule it is in is the bedrock.
The bedrock, yeah.
So I'm like, wait, what? So I have a great relationship with Mayor McRae over in Romulus. I was on the phone with him on a regular basis. Anything we could do, I spoke out against it. We learned later on that a small percentage did go there. It was immediately stopped. But one of the things, I can't think of his title. I know he used to be the fire chief over in Romulus, but his name's Kevin Kraus.
Yeah.
He really educated me on these injection wells and has a ton of knowledge. And one of their biggest concerns is that the science hasn't been really looked at over the last 30 or 40 years. So there's tests that they can do to see if what has been put in there already has infiltrated anything or whatever. So that's one of the things that Romulus is really saying, like, hey, listen, we at least want to know what's going on with what has been put in there. Now, the product that came from the derailment was like 99% water, 1% chemical. So that kind of made, but it really made people say, you know, we don't want this in our backyard. And I think it was they did an open house a few months prior to this happening. So through pushback through you know, our state legislators, our state senators, Congress and everything, they opened those windows. So I think they started the 3rd, and they're currently going on right now, so people can go in there and voice their concerns. It's now it's online.
Right.
It's not the open house they had at the
public
library.
comment.
The public
exactly.
comment at the
Exactly.
library. So that's going, and I think the goal is to get this well shut off. You know, to close it basically.
What do you
It's a tough situation because.
Right.
One of those things is you know, we're saying, hey, we don't want that stuff from Ohio to come here. But one of my questions is, okay, what happens if it happens in Michigan?
Yeah.
You know, then where are they going to put it? Because a lot of other states are probably going to say, well, we don't want their stuff.
Right.
So it's a really touchy situation. I don't know. It's one of those things where nobody wants it in their backyard.
Yeah,
you know?
people don't realize this. This reminds me, although this is much more serious discussion, of, you know, Michigan went through so much push about recycling and things like that, okay? And yet there was so many build-outs of large waste areas, okay, like Mount Trashmore and Riverview or whatever. And
Our
so,
Ashley Capital site.
yeah, and as we were declining in our trash output to these places, they had to fill them with something. So then you get all of this trash coming in from like Toronto.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, what are we doing here? Okay, on the one hand, Michigan residents are making a sacrifice. They're doing certain things that I guess are more environmentally wise. And on the other hand, we're just turning around and filling it with somebody else's trash.
Well, I mean, you know, one of my arguments is as you know, businesses, Eagle and FEMA has created a lot of obstacles for businesses to build. You know, all vacant land seems to be a wetland now, you know, so there's been a lot of obstacles that we're trying to work with through our government system and stuff, but you're being so protective of us touching this piece of property because there's a puddle on it, but yet you're allowing these chemicals to be shot down a mile into our, you know, it just, there's kind of a,
right in the middle of the Great Lakes.
yes, and I think they said that the bedrock goes southwest, so it literally runs under the lake, water, part of the river or something.
Right.
It just, it was amazing to me.
It's bizarre.
It's a mile down, but still, at some point, if there's a crack in the bedrock or something,
Right. Well, it's always been a bizarre discussion.
it is. You know,
to get
it's one
into.
of those things. They got to put it somewhere.
Yeah.
But right next to Detroit and the Great Lakes,
Yeah, makes you
that,
cringe.
that one makes me, you know. But that happened like 20, 30 years ago, and
Right.
I know it was fought and opposed by Taylor back then, and but it was passed in Romulus, and it was there.
Speaking of vacant areas, Taylor's long-awaited recreation of the old Lang Park land. Where does that stand now? Where are we moving?
So actually, we're putting. Just met with Guido the other day, and we're getting all the bids ready for all the equipment that's going to go there. They should start moving ground here pretty soon. Right now, we're basically, you know, telling the old paintball company, like, you got to get those spindles out of there.
Right.
You know, because we're getting ready to start moving on that. So it's moving. You know, we're predicting it'll be done by next year, complete.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
so we're hoping for either a late spring or early summer opening.
Are you going to open it in phases, or are you going to wait to finish the whole thing?
I think we're gonna finish everything
Okay,
because we want to do, you know, the things. The way we're doing is like building from the inside out.
Sure.
So you know, with the skate park and the BMX pump track and stuff, there's going to be a lot of like cement and the walking tracks. So there's going to be a lot of trucks in and out of there. So once we get that all done, then we'll go with the playground equipment and all that stuff. And eventually we're even going to probably redo Holland Road once the project's complete.
Which would be an advantage. Yeah,
Yes.
that'd be a good
Yeah,
idea.
that is one of the projects we did submit to the county for ARPA funds.
Speaking of parks, Heritage Park, renovations to the old Westbound Church, which burned a
Yep.
couple years ago, and inside the nearby activities building are nearing an end. That's going to be an interesting package that the city is going to be offering. Can you kind of expound upon that?
Yeah, I thought it was, you know, more credit to Guido Hewlin, our Parks and Rec director. He came to us and said, hey, you know, the activity building doesn't get a lot of use, you know, and what do you think about with the church being redone, we convert that into a hall. So that way you can have a wedding on site and literally walk 100 feet and you're in a hall.
Right.
And looking into everything and stuff, we thought it was a great idea. We ended up doing it. Council supported it. We got the money, and we're going to have pretty much like kind of like an open house reopening type thing to let people go in and look. I think the church, we were only waiting on like a 2 chandelier type style lights or something like that, and I saw pictures. I think the activity building hall is, I think, completely done. So both of them looked great the last time I was in them. They weren't. They were about 75%. But I think it's going to be a great opportunity for the city to use that beautiful resource in Heritage Park and bring in revenue at the same time.
Well, when you look, we've done so many good things around the lake, and the lake is just a hop, step, and a jump from the church, which is just a hop, step, and a jump from.
You got the gazebo right there.
You've got,
absolutely.
you've got all your backdrops to beautiful photos.
There's a lot of people that get married at the gazebo.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so the hall's right there too. I mean, it's. I think they said 200 people could fit in there, and you know, it's. I thought it was a great idea, and Guido's really innovative with his some of the projects he brings.
Very community-oriented vision.
Absolutely.
From him.
Yeah.
Exactly. It is interesting. The other thing when I look at what they're doing in the activities building is you and I both know, the median median family income in Taylor is, a lot of people live under the county minimum. And you have to offer different levels. Okay, if people are going to get married, they may want to get married in the park, but they can't afford to go to the golf course or something like that.
And the pavilions, that's the thing. You can rent you can actually rent the Sheridan Pavilion, and so that's what we try to do. One of the things when we first brought in Winterfest, we brought that company in, and it was beautiful, but it was very expensive.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So, when, Guido, what can we do to change this a little bit? We added the family day, we added the resident rate, and we made even the regular rate more affordable, and so that's what we try to do. We try to offer programs and, things that, everybody can kind of afford.
Right, exactly. Road work in the spring. They come hand in hand.
'Tis the season.
That's for sure. You have 19 residential streets that are already queued up, okay? And they're probably going to be starting the work on them probably before this goes.
It's it's the Thursday before Easter. I believe they're starting, I think, Monday, the day after Easter.
Exactly. Monroe Street, the design phase has been okayed. Beach Daily, you're going to do with some of the money that was left over from...
the Monroe too.
Right, and Monroe.
Yeah,
both of those.
We think we're able to use for both.
Okay. And that's not even counting Wayne County road work. How do you view all this? You get a lot done.
I haven't gotten anything yet from the county to see what they're doing. I'm begging and pleading with them to do E-Course Road, especially between Beach Daily and Telegraph. But through the bond, when we did Pardee and Goddard, when I was on council, I was really, adamant about why wouldn't we finish Beach Daily. There was 2 miles left, which was Wick to Van Born, basically. So we put money that where we said, okay, whatever's left, we can use that. So that was one of the things. Well, over the last year, we really realized Monroe is getting really bad, especially down by the school.
Right.
Between WIC and E-course, I think it's worse, but because of when it's probably going to be done, we want them to do by the school first while they're out of school.
Right.
So they're going to shoot from south to north, and that'll be Monroe all the way to the dead end down there and to E-course Road.
Okay.
Because it's gotten in pretty bad shape. So, but we're also looking at, for the longest time, we never really used CDBG. We never really used TIFA for road projects, and they're eligible. Right. So we did go in and look at one road, because there's only so many funds in CDBG. We settled on McGuire down in the south end off Eureka. It's in horrible shape. We use what's called a PACER rating. Every 2 year, an engineering group goes out and rates our roads,
right.
and they're color coded. Red is the worst.
Right.
McGuire is completely red.
Wow.
So that was one, okay, we can do one street with this amount of money, this is going to be the street here. Now there's another street next to it, that'll be next on the list. So we were hoping that these 18, 19 roads was going to be done in the fall. However, they were having problems with asphalt and all that stuff, so it carried over into the spring. And our budget year is June to July, basically, end of June to July. So we're in the process right now of picking the new streets, and we kind of look at a neighborhood. We look for red on the PACER map.
Gotcha.
And so we kind of concentrate on the, there's a bunch of different levels, bunch of different colors. So we kind of try to focus on that, and then we see, okay, this entire neighborhood is in this red to brown, which means they're not good. So let's do this whole neighborhood and knock it out at one time. So that's what we kind of do with, I sit down with Ralph Richard, our DPW director, Dan Bazura, and Chris Gibbs as well, our city engineer. And a lot of times, once we kind of finalize, we go and drive them.
Yeah.
Like all the roads that are getting done this spring, we drove last year, and they are and were the worst roads in the city, 100%. The PACER, and if you drove down them, it was unbelievable, and it was just one of those things where I'm going by the PACER ratings because we have to, no matter how many people live down those streets, there's roads that are literally crumbling away. Right. And some people think their roads are bad. There's some that are really bad and worse. So we're going to tackle them first. So
and the way this
I know everybody, we live in Michigan,
right.
and our roads don't last very long and stuff. So it's a process, but they're going to see a lot more movement. And that's one of the things we kind of had to orchestrate too, because we're doing work on Wick Road this year. Monroe's going to be going. We're going to be hitting neighborhoods, so we can't cut off arteries, and we got to really be strategic on how we do it. That's why we're doing Beach Daily after we do Monroe.
Right. Right. And then those rail guys are going to come through.
Yeah,
and
then
close
the rail's
street
coming in. Yeah, so it's kind of been, and we've coordinated with him, them to make sure we're not. We got to let the bus drivers know and stuff, and the school board, and so there's a lot of logistics that go into it. So but we're in the process of picking our next budget year streets right now.
I hear you. Gin Blossoms, a unique 80s, 90s rock band, will be one of the featured performers at this year's Summer Festival, June 22nd through the 25th. You have a keen interest in 80s bands, Mayor.
I do.
You excited?
Yeah. I've always liked Gin Blossoms. They're more of to me a lighter rock alternative band, I would say. I was more of the 80s hair metal band guy, but Hey Jealousy, found out about, they got quite a few hits.
Right.
So I'm pretty excited to see. Carl, it's been unbelievably crazy trying to book bands this year. Normally we would have all our bands set already. I mean, literally, we signed Gin Blossoms, I think last week.
Yes, exactly.
All these bands are going on tour. There's more, the casinos are creating a problem because if a casino books them, which they book them 6 months, years out, they can't play within a radius of that casino so many months prior to and stuff. So, Julie, who books these bands for us, it's been an obstacle this year. So right now, the only one we have slated is Gin Blossoms. So we're going to look for an opening band for them, and then we're trying to secure a country act for the fireworks night. You know, so it seemed to work really well last year with having like a dedicated rock night and a dedicated country night. Both did very well. The country night did win out. You know, but what we try to do too is one of the things, we have a budget for bands. And if we can get a huge act for a little more money, that's what we want to do, and then we would just go cheaper on whatever it was. So if we were able to book a big country person for a little more money, then we would use the rest of that money to book a rock act, you know, and vice versa. So it's kind of seeing who's out there. Everybody's going on tour this year, it seems like. All these venues are creating it hard to book bands. And then the other thing is a lot of these bands are going out as groups, you know, like
attaching.
3 or 4 bands are going out and doing tours, and it's just, we can't afford that, you know, so, you know, it's been a work in progress. We do have Gin Blossoms locked, and I know Julie's working hard, and we're kind of, you know, I'm getting a little impatient. Here we are in April, you know, so.
Well, I have to admit, over the course of time here, a decade that I've been with the city, it seems like no matter what happens in the prep phase, by the time late June comes around, we get a pretty good show.
Yeah, we usually get a good show. You know,
Everybody's pretty happy.
Every one I've been to, I've really enjoyed, even if I wasn't the biggest fan of the band.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I hear you. I hear you.
Chase us around. Past is gone, but something might be found to take its place. Hey, Tennessee. Hey, Tennessee. Hey, Tennessee.
Speaking of popular, the Family Fun Days being rolled out again by Parks and Rec. They've been scheduled for June the 16th. That theme is around the world. July the 21st, Day at the Beach, and August the 18th, the Dog Days of Summer, that always happens in August, at the Sheridan Center in Heritage Park. That was a tremendously popular series last year. You loved it.
Chelsea Nunley hit a home run. You know, it was one of those things that, you know, people were getting a little upset about. You know, our farmers market was not doing well.
It wasn't percolating.
So we didn't want to do away with it, but we needed to do something else because what we were doing wasn't working. It's hard to have a farmer's market in Michigan because most of our produce here doesn't come into like July and August and stuff. So that was part of the problem, and then a lot of other cities started doing it, so more people were going here depending on the amount of people that showed up and stuff. So it became a turf battle. And Chelsea, along with Guido, came to us and said, hey, we want to include this, and we're still going to have the vendors and all that stuff. They can sell whatever they want, even if it's produce. Not really going to call it a farmer's market. We're going to call it a Family Fun Day. So the first one I went to last year, I was blown away because there was probably 300 to 500 people there.
Couldn't even get
the parking lot was completely full. I walked around, I seen all the kids having a blast. There was some science lady, and all the kids were sitting around watching, and all the vendors were kind of lined up along the back and stuff. And so I walked each one of them, and I said, hey, you know, what do you think? And they were elated because there was so many people there. And what it was is the parents were there with their kids. So while the kids were over in the science seminar there, the parents were walking, and then I seen kids walking their parents through the vendors and stuff. So it really was a hit last year, and everyone was completely packed.
All we have to do is just pray for good weather.
But it's under the pavilion, so it's not too bad.
You know? They'll draw. There's no doubt about that. On another note, Mike Levedini, good guy, was named Taylor Police's newest deputy chief recently. Thoughts?
Yeah, Mike did a great job. You know, we did an interview process. We had 4 great officers apply. I kind of put together a committee. Me, Dan Bazura, our clerk Cindy Bauer, and we had the police chief from Lincoln Park, and I cannot remember his name.
Used to be Carnes, but he's now the mayor.
No, it's not him. I can't think of his name, and I apologize. But you know, we sat down and made it. You know, even though we had a new HR director that was the former chief. We didn't think it would be, right to have him in the room and stuff.
yeah.
But, he did write some of the questions to ask, which was nice and stuff. But went through an interview process. It was a tough choice, but at the end of the day, we all believed Mike should get the position.
I'll be honest with you, he's also helped us out here, of all places, because he walked in here and he came up with a couple of good ideas.
Oh, yeah.
One was Meet Your First Responders, a series that we're now doing with policemen and with firefighters. We even did Mike, and you really have liked that series.
I thought it's great. I mean, look at the amount of shares, the amount of YouTube, shows, views, and just even on Facebook. I think it's great because the biggest thing is cops don't drive black and white cars anymore. They're driving different vehicles. A lot of times people say we don't even see the police officer, and I can go on and check and see where police vehicles are going, the GPS systems and stuff, and they just don't see them, but they're there. They drive by and stuff. And now when I was a kid, we would be out playing basketball or baseball or something. There was enough police officers where they'd get out, and throw the ball with you and tell you, hey, stay in line and all that stuff. And we just don't have that size force like we used to. So I think this is a great way to learn our first responders, because we started out with the police, but hey, let's do the fire as well, because Carl, we're getting a lot of new people and stuff. I don't know who half of them are over there half the time. I keep yelling at the chiefs like, hey, I need a picture and a name type thing so I know who these guys and girls are. So
well, it's fascinating.
But I think it's a great opportunity for the residents to kind of learn a little bit about where they come from, what they've done, what got them into the law force. So your questions are great.
Well, and it's fun because being behind the camera for those, and they're basically 10-minute clips.
Yeah,
through.
They're not super.
But when you're talking to these people, you just never know what you're going to run into.
Right.
I mean, you got very, very young guy on your left, and you ask them, any real accomplishments that jump out at you, and he hesitates. Well, I worked in Detroit, and I was Officer of the Year 2 years ago. And it's like, how did that happen? And it was, a major chase
that was
issue.
Joe.
It was Joe.
Yeah, Joe.
I know we should know.
Yeah,
but,
having a mind blank here, but I played Little League with his dad.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So
Joe Anthony.
Joe Anthony.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
yeah. Because his
exactly.
dad's Joe too.
Right.
But yeah, it's a great situation. The thing I love the most, I watch those and I listen.
Yeah.
Because to me, those are recruitment videos.
Oh, absolutely.
And my favorite part was, so many of them kept using the word family.
Right.
And that made me proud as a resident and as the mayor.
Right.
That these new police officers are coming here and they're saying it's a family atmosphere.
Right.
And the thing I also love is, like I said before, if you notice, they don't all look like me and you.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Our departments are diversifying, and everybody's coming here, and I talk to them. All these laterals that came and stuff, I see them in the back parking lot or something. I call them over and I talk to them. Hey, what do you all of them. So glad I came here.
Well,
so glad I came here. And on that video, when they say the word family all the time, that's what I want. I want teamwork. I want family. I mean, we got law and order here now, and we're anytime we have an issue, we address it immediately. And but I love the fact that they feel like they're a family.
Between the family, the
part of a family.
Part of a family, the reception that they've received, and one young woman, I found my forever department. It was like,
was that Ruby?
Whoa.
I think Ruby said
that was Ruby.
Yeah,
Ruby called it.
So it was that made me proud too.
Yeah,
this is my forever home, basically. And that makes me feel good.
And it was cool because Justin was over here, fire medic, and we didn't know, but he was just getting the first fire dog in Taylor.
Yeah.
That
was
Bunker, we found
new,
out about Bunker.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cute. But you never know what you're going to get on those things. So last but not least, Mayor Woolley. Okay, here we go. Played a little April Fool's joke on everybody. Okay, alleging to find the skeletal remains of a woolly mammoth. Stunning. An extinct elephant-like creature on the grounds of one of our golf courses. Okay, who put you up to that, Mr. Prankster?
You know what? I give myself a little pat. I was sitting there and I thought, you know what? I've never really done this. Let me think of a April Fool's joke to put out there. But I wanted to promote the city of Taylor as well.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, you know what? We'll go with Lakes. Let's go with there. And as you can, hopefully most people realize the pun, you know, they discovered a woolly mammoth skull in the ninth hole sand bunker at the Lakes of Taylor, and great job to our DPW for, you know, and I had a picture that I had found
Right.
that was from a farm out in Ann Arbor area.
Right.
So they do find woolly mammoths quite a bit in Michigan.
Gotcha.
And, you know, so I kind of threw this all together in my head, and I went in there and I posted it. And it was funny because a lot of people were buying it at first, and then I thought, uh-oh, you know, I don't, hopefully, you know. And then the shares started happening and all this stuff, and my wife was like, you know, you should, I'm like, they're going to get it, you know. And luckily, 99% did, you know.
Yeah.
I did get one person that was not happy with me. I explained to that person that, hey, it was an April Fool's joke. I was having fun. Anybody that knows me and knows I like to joke around, and I'm sorry if I misled you, but at the same sense, I'm a bit of a historian. I'm a wannabe Indiana Jones archaeologist. I would not have our DPW fish out a woolly mammoth skull if we found one. And the chances of when they built that golf course, they would have discovered it then. You know?
You would think. That's
So,
for
you
sure.
know, and
That's for
and I think that person realized, you know, they had said, you know, yeah, I think I'm being a little, and I'm like, well, you know, I was having fun, you know. So, but most people got a good kick out of it, and I still have people bringing it up to me. If, you know, what's today, the 5th or 6th, you know, and so a few days later, people are still bringing it up. Like Sam just saw the post not too long ago, and she was fooled by it.
Well, we went through a lot there.
Yeah,
No
it's
doubt
quick.
about that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, bank on seeing more gags from Taylor's head prankster in the future. For now, that's it for From the Mayor's Desk, featuring Tim Woolley for April 2023. For our crew behind the scenes, Samantha Taylor and Joseph Francis, both of whom fell for the woolly mammoth joke.
Yeah.
Line, hook, and sinker. I'm your host, Carl Zymak. We'll see you on the next episode.